Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, folks. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and we're still virtual. We're not back at Renaissance Bank at the moment, but we're looking forward to being able to do that soon. In the meantime, though, Renaissance Bank is open for business. Yes, you have to make an appointment before you can go in the branch, but here's the good news. If you go to renaissancebank.com and find your local office and call them, you won't get an 800 number over in Idaho somewhere. You'll actually get, and nothing wrong with Idaho, but it's nice to talk to a live person, right? So you'll get a live person at their branch. Nearest one to you, and they're happy to help you. And if you're looking for a more personal experience for your business, and you're tired of the big mega bank experience that involves the 1-800 numbers and phone trees and talking to someone in Idaho, there's an answer, and that answer is Renaissance Bank. 200 offices across the South ready to serve you. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome David Shavzin and Bob Tankesley. And David and Bob are co-founders of the Exit Planning Exchange. David, Bob, welcome.
Thanks, John. Hey, thanks, John.
Great to be with you. Yeah, great to have both of you here. And you both of you are return guests. I mean, you were on talking about your own practice, but we're here to talk about the Exit Planning Exchange that the two of you, along with Eric Togneri, we're going to shout out Eric, the three of you co-founded. So let's talk a little bit about that and what the Exit Planning Exchange is all about.
Would love to. Bob, do you want to start in? Sure. Exit Planning Exchange, the Atlanta chapter, was formed officially in May of last year. We had our hard launch in May of last year. So we're a little bit more than a year old, but that was launched after considerable effort. What, David, probably 14, 15 months of prep time, getting the board set, getting initial sponsors set, putting the word out to folks that we knew in the Southeast, particularly the metro Atlanta area. But here we are at closing in on 100 members and about a dozen sponsors during COVID, I might add. So that's
look at you. That's awesome.
No small feat.
Yeah. Congratulations. That really is awesome. And to have started something in this kind of environment says something about your longevity when things return to whatever normal would look like. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what the exit, I want to get to why you had all that growth, because that's great. And kudos to that, but let's talk a little bit about the XPX for short itself, what you're doing, and why is it that Atlanta needs yet another association?
So why does Atlanta need another association? Atlanta does not need just another association, right, of whatever sort, but we saw a real need, a gap in what's out there. So there's a lot of good groups out there, clearly, in a lot of different areas, disciplines and focus areas. But, for us in the area of exit planning, doing transactions, helping business owners build value in their companies, which is a lot of what we do in our day jobs, we do it in a certain way. And when we came across Exit Planning Exchange, started talking with the founders based out of Boston, it just fell into line. They were so in sync with how we operate, how we think, our philosophy, and working with our clients, that we just had to jump on it and took the opportunity to create the chapter in Atlanta. And what, a lot of the basic tenets of XPX are, as I say, in line with how we operate. And we just didn't see enough of that. And so what we mean by that in brief is very much focused on the collaborative advisory team. So the advisors to the business owners working, collaboratively, right? Working well together. There's a lot of groups around town, a lot of good professionals. They do a lot of good work with clients. We didn't see the collaboration happening. And, and that we've just seen for years and years and years, when you truly are working together and coming up with common solutions for the client wins. And really that's the bottom line. So and I would say the other quick thing from an exit planning, from an exit and a transaction standpoint, what we see day in, day out and have seen is that business owners are usually very disappointed when we start at the outset helping them understand what their companies are worth at that moment in time. Usually very disappointed. So, what we try to do is start working with clients early on. And again, that was also a tenet, part and parcel of XPX, which is, collectively, the entire spectrum of advisors, we need to be working with these business owners early on from when they start their business, right? To start thinking about value at the beginning. So those are just a couple of the key tenets of XPX that were so in line with us. And so we said, all right, we got to do this. And started working on it. Started spring of 2018, Bob?
Right.
Took a full year to plan it. And we just really wanted to do it the right way. We didn't want to look like another association down the street.
And let's talk a little bit about the broader organization, because you're a chapter of a national organization, and talk about that and the benefits of that.
So based out of Boston, founded out of Boston, about a dozen chapters, about I think 4 or 5 now, exploring information. There's actually a chapter forming in London in the UK. The rest for the time being around the U.S. A little more locally here. There's one forming in Charlotte and one in Research Triangle Park as well. Yeah, and a group looking down in Florida actually too. So what they brought to the table, I think number one and most importantly, I think, is structuring that background that I mentioned a moment ago. But also the back as an association, as a volunteer association, bringing all of the back end support. Has been a huge part of it. So it's the managing the website, all the registrations, all those kinds of administrative things for us. More importantly, they've just been at it for a long time. So they're a huge resource to us as a chapter in terms of what we're doing, how we're doing things. And then, as we talk about collaboration among advisors, that collaboration idea runs through the association itself. And so the Mary Adams, one of the co-founders, so she's getting the chapter presidents together on a regular basis. She's getting together the chapter membership chairs on a regular basis. So fostering internally this huge effort at collaboration. So the chapters are learning from each other. And then in these days of COVID, it's also accelerated, obviously, everything going online, which means that any member from any chapter can jump onto almost any event or going on around the country, which is really nice. So there's no more boundaries as long as we're doing this Zoom thing. So tremendous support to a decade plus in thinking through the underlying principles, and huge support to what we're able to do here in Atlanta.
Folks, we're here chatting with David Shavzin and Bob Tankesley, and they are co-founders of the Exit Planning Exchange. Let's talk about the benefit to the end client of all of you, which is that business owner that's ready to make a transition or planning one. You talked about the importance of collaboration, and I think a lot of business owners maybe don't see that. They see when they think about this, they think about calling up their CPA or whoever their trusted advisor is, not their number one on the list, and they think that's the person they're going to go through this process with, right? And it's more complicated than that, and that's why you preach collaboration.
Yeah, you got a great point there, John. As service providers, we've all probably heard this expression or this phrase, "Stay in your lane." Don't. I think an unintended consequence of that is okay, I'll stay in my lane. You stay in your lane. John will stay in his lane. David stays in his lane. And none of us are going to intersect. None of us are going to work together. We're all going to be riding alongside. And the business owner is going to have, one-on-one conversations with each of us. I'm providing great advice. You guys are providing great advice, other service providers, but it's in a vacuum. And who's on the owner's team, or does the owner even have time to synthesize all this great advice and to put it in context and to make it meaningful? And I think the research is in, the data is in, that business owners are not having the best outcomes when it comes to an exit because fundamentally all that advice is not coordinated. The service providers are not collaborating as early as possible, as David says, getting us all in a room without the owner present. Often is a very fruitful exercise. Now that takes team members that can let the guard down, don't have high egos, know how to play nicely with others, and so part of our membership vetting process is we dig a little deeper into just what's put on an application. We'd like to see evidence of some collaboration in the past.
I'll add a couple of things to that if I can. It's because from the owner perspective, when we say collaboration and we list a lot of the advisors that they ought to be consulting and have them consulting among themselves, obviously one thing that comes to mind is how much is this going to cost? And so we take some time with that and we encourage it in any case. If you think about all the advisors, some of them are not working on an hourly basis. And there's a lot of ways to keep the cost down. But the reality is, whatever that is, the intent, and it bears out, is that the owner is going to be much better off if it becomes a much better solution from a value growth standpoint. If the eventual sale of that company is knocked up by just 10, 20% higher, right? Obviously, it makes sense. So there's a little bit of coaching and discussion with the owner that's necessary, but the value is there. It's clear. The other thing I would say, the message to the advisors who may think, I can handle a lot of this, right? Whoever that first trusted advisor might be. Mm-hmm. The reality is the owner, the client, is going to feel much better with that collaborative solution. And having a second, third, fourth advisor, in different disciplines there, it's also going to help that initial first advisor get across the point in the right way to the owner. There's so many benefits to that team working well together. And Bob mentioned the idea of someone coordinating that quarterback role. I do a lot of that in my day job, and I've just seen it over and over and over again. We're all brilliant, right? Everybody's been at this, got a little gray hair. They've been at this a long time, and they really know their areas. They're going to be much more successful in front of the client if they have the team wrapped around them. So we encourage the advisory team to do that and make that happen. If there is one advisor working with a client, make sure and push the client to bring these people around. But we also counsel the client. If your advisors aren't working together, kick them out and find some that will, because it's really critical to really your entire life in retirement in a lot of cases. How well that transaction goes. So it's a critical area. Last real quick thing, we had our monthly event for XPX just yesterday, a panel of business owners who had sold their businesses. Mm-hmm. So we were looking at their advice, what went wrong and what could have been done better. Great stories, great panel. I think the running theme was, I didn't get enough help from a variety of advisors. I didn't have the team that was through every single one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a endorsement there for sure. So what this really speaks to, if I'm a business owner, is I really shouldn't hire an advisor that's not a member of XPX Atlanta. That's what I'm hearing.
That's a great plug. Thanks, John.
It's amazing how I came to that conclusion there, right? So, well, but it makes sense because it's not just that everyone has their own expertise, but there's I guess what you might call some virtuous mastermind that goes on when you've got talented people working with each other, and maybe suggestions that each can make that add to the whole, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely is. So Bob here actually coined our vision of changing the trajectory of exit planning in the Southeast. And that's really what we're trying to get across, and in that way. So, yes, we're trying to bring the organization along that path, John. To which and you asked a question, and it's maybe partly joking, partly a plug, but it's true. We're trying to get folks to come in, understand, talk to each other, work together, and see that you're going to do better by, first of all, advisors joining XPX, becoming part of that community, seeing what we really mean, and then business owners looking for support from advisors who are members of XPX and really take all of this to heart. Yeah.
So right now, as of this recording, we have 93 members with momentum to close in on 100 very soon, and applications in process. So when we came up with that vision, it was how many people is it going to take to change the trajectory, to help business owners have better outcomes through a collaborative advisory team approach? Is it 100 members of XPX Atlanta is going to change that trajectory? Is it 200? Is it 300? We don't know. As we said, there's other chapters forming in the Southeast. We're the first one into this region of the country. And as these other chapters come online, they tend to be asking us for advice on how we did it, how we grew so quick, both in membership and in sponsorship. But, it remains to be seen what our impact is going to be ultimately. But, why did we agree to start this in the first place is we saw that business owners deserved better outcomes. And over time, we hope to be able to deliver by having more and more members in our chapter.
Let's talk about trajectory. So, going in a pandemic, going from zero and planning and hoping to close in on 100 members is awesome work. So congratulations again on that. But how is Atlanta just have more collaborative advisors? What's the reason for that growth besides the brilliance of its of the co-founders?
Oh boy, big shoes. Maybe it's a Southern thing. I don't know. No, really, David nailed it earlier. We started off with a board that was highly connected. Okay, so they had been practicing their craft for X number of years, a lot of years in individual cases. Well connected, well networked, and above all, those two things are great. Being great at what you do and being well connected, but having a spirit, having a mindset, having a willingness to be a part of something larger than yourselves is what helped us form just an outstanding board. Our own methodical approach. David Shavzin is excellent at that, and spearheading this initial board as chapter president. A lot of good things came together, but behind it was this shared commonality that business owners deserve a better outcome.
And I will say, well, and also clarify, John. We started up in May of 2019, so it was pre-COVID that we got started.
Okay.
But holding our own and growing through this. But the question is, does Atlanta have more collaboration in it? I don't think so. I think when we saw this at the beginning, we, we're on and got on a mission to encourage it further, if you will. And so, like I said, we brought the initial board. There were people we knew. We twisted a couple arms and shoved people onto the board in a couple of cases and grew that, and just started doing things, right? And I think by doing these things, putting on the events, the structure of the events, how things were rolled out, people just, I would say saw it and jumped on the bandwagon. I think there's some natural tendencies, but as Bob was saying earlier, sometimes, all of us, right, individually, we can just do our own thing. Don't bother me. Is a little bit more of how things have functioned, over time. So we're pushing people along that trajectory. We hope and we think we're bringing, a lot of our colleagues, a lot of professionals in the Atlanta area, and even a lot of the business owners along that path.
Sure.
It's one of those. I think it's those BHAGs, big, audacious, big, hairy, audacious goals. It's kind of like that vision that you will never get 100% to, but you're always working towards it.
Let's talk about the types of advisors that you have as members, the different disciplines, I guess, that are represented there is what I'm getting at, and who should be a member of XPX that isn't.
I'll take that one. So at a high level, think of two distinct categories. One would be the deal team type of professional. That is, who shows up in the business owner's world the last 6 to 12 months of ownership before some type of transition. Typically, that's, in no particular order, it's CPAs, attorneys, M&A advisors, valuation people, maybe bankers. Who am I missing, David? Your usual people that you would expect to be shepherding a deal through its various stages. And then at the other end of the extreme, you have the non-deal team members, and those we broadly call consultants. Very broad term, but a consultant could be someone that comes in, toward the end of the ownership life cycle, the last 6, 12 months, or they could come in at the very beginning of the business's formation or anywhere in between. So a consultant is working with the owner all throughout the ownership life cycle, delivering a lot of the services that we might think of, be it HR consulting, IT, outsourced CFO, a lot of different subcategories within that broader consultant category. That consultant category is actually about a third of our membership, which is something we've been pushing hard for over the years, over the months as we've been growing this. The deal team members, we were convinced early that they're going to find us eventually, just given the name of the organization, Exit Planning Exchange. But the consultants are finding us because we're making a real conscious effort to bring them in. And with the main purpose of having consultants, get outside of their own lane, so to speak, as I said earlier, and start talking with the owner and being, genuinely being curious about the owner's business, the way that they make their living, and helping them think about where it's going, and asking that very open-ended question: where is this going? What do you intend to do with this business? Is this something that somebody else is going to buy from you? Is that your vision? Is an internal transaction more likely? Helping an owner think about that long before they talk to an M&A advisor, long before it's time to go to market.
What you're talking about there, Bob, is having those folks that really help, I guess, get the house ready for showing, right? I mean, as well as possible. And there are a lot of folks, I mean, the metaphor holds because there's a lot of folks that get involved with that, with a house. It's the same thing with a business.
Great analogy. And I said this on your other session that we did, buyers have options. That's one of the certainties in the transaction world. They can buy your business. They can not buy your business. They can work the price down. They can, get concessions from you. And buyers don't like to pay retail. That's just one of those other universal truths. And so as much as we can do to prepare the business and prepare the owner for that transition, as much as we can do that, the better that owner, the employees, the owner's family, everyone's that's depending on him, the better that everyone will be served by having reduced, as many buyer objections before any buyer has a chance to raise them. That's kind of a long-term overarching goal. That getting an owner who's someday going to be a seller to think like a buyer is a very difficult mind shift to make, but it's an important transition for an owner to make.
And starting early on, it's I liken it to, if you're investing and you start investing when you're 20 years old, you're way ahead of the game, right? When you get to the end. And it's the same with the business. If we can, all these advisors, all these consultants can be working on building value early on. Yeah, there's a lot less to worry about at the end.
Folks, we're here talking with David Shavzin and Bob Tankesley. They're with the Exit Planning Exchange, the Atlanta chapter of the Exit Planning Exchange. Sounds like you have some awfully interesting events. I mean, the one you described yesterday, that occurred yesterday, as we taped the show, where you had business owners that talking about what they would have done differently. Talk a little bit about some of your events and how you offer value to your members there.
I'll jump in, Bob. Add what I may have missed on this. So we do a monthly event. It's either a speaker or a panel on a topic related and interesting to business owners, right? But from the perspective of the advisors. And after that material, after that panel or that speaker delivers, we get into roundtable breakouts. Back in the physical world, that was 8 folks around a table. And now on Zoom, for the time being, we are in breakouts of 8 folks, and there's a case study put on the table. And so those 8 folks are doing a lot more than your typical networking. So certainly they're introducing themselves, but then they're getting to understand how they each think. And that is around a real business case. So it's not just chit chat. And the response has been just phenomenal. So you've got 8 people talking about a business case, learning about each other in a more meaningful way, and starting already to identify other advisors they might be able and want to collaborate with. The other thing that we do that I think is fairly unique, we curate the tables so that around the table we might have the attorney, the CPA, wealth advisor, but we may have a supply chain consultant, a human capital consultant. So we mix it up so we don't have a lot of the same professions at the table. And so you have kind of a consulting collaborative advisory team right there on the spot. And so we always say you're not going to get to know everything about the folks around the table at that time, but you're going to get a quick, pretty good insight to be able to follow up in more meaningful ways after that. So that's one event we do every month. We also do this is for members only, but it's called Power of 5. And that is just 5 or 6 of us getting together, talking about what's going on, sharing ideas and learnings and what's going on out there in the world. So that is also a monthly opportunity for folks. And then we do a couple socials through the year for our members and sponsors as well.
Yeah, just one thing to add on those breakout sessions in our monthly meetings, which are in the Atlanta chapter is the second Tuesday of each month, lunch version. The breakout session, the business case is presented, the questions are presented, and usually it's an extension of what was delivered by a panel or a speaker. And as David said, each person gets to contribute, a little bit of what's in their mind. We all get to hear how each other thinks and maybe even behaves, to the extent that you can predict it in a client situation. The magic is it's as if we're all working on that first virtual client together in a very non-threatening way. And, it goes way beyond just handing out business cards at your typical networking event. We do the 30-second, round table introduction of each person and then get into the breakout session, the reason for being there. But by the time those 30 minutes or so are over, you've really got a sense of team that you've come together around this usually fictional case scenario, but you've come together as a team, however briefly, and you've discussed something, everybody contributing things from their viewpoint. And you have worked on that first client together. Let me say that again. I know in networking, a lot of us listening to this have been doing networking for years and years, and there's always this tension between, okay, when do I invite somebody in to my world and hand them off a client or introduce them to a client? And there's in many cases there's a hesitancy, but we've dissolved all that with this with this format. Again, we presented this first case for everybody around the table to work together, and it's pretty powerful.
Great stuff here from David Shavzin and Bob Tankesley of the Exit Planning Exchange. Guys, this has been great. Let's get to the most important question, which is those that would like more information, whether it's business owners about your organization and how you can help them, or maybe potential advisors of various disciplines that might be interested in your organization. How can they be in touch?
Best thing is go to our website, which is exitplanningexchange.com. That's all spelled out, exitplanningexchange.com/Atlanta. And you can find all kinds of information on there, upcoming events. You can look up contact information for us and for our members. You can learn about joining, and you actually can do the application right online to join. And you can take a look also at the chapter leadership and reach out. We'd love to share more about XPX. And as we always say, any professional advisor to a business owner needs to come and take a look at XPX and check us out.
Great work. David Shavzin, Bob Tankesley, thanks so much for being with us, guys.
Appreciate it, John.
Thanks, John. Take care.
Thank you. Folks, just a quick reminder that if you've got some administrative task in your business that is weighing you down, you've got some bookkeeping issues, you've got receipts in a shoebox or what have you, maybe you need someone that can clean up some marketing issues with your business, I've got an answer for you that involves picking up the phone and calling S.E. Escobedo over at Office Angels. Now, you can reach her at 770-442-9246, and when you call her, here's what happens. You explain your problem. She picks out an angel out of her virtual team of angels that fly in, get the job done on an ongoing or as-needed basis, and fly right back out. So, and they're used to a pandemic environment. They've been doing it this way for 18 years, so they know how to work virtually. And she's got a terrific group, and I know that myself because I work with her. So I can't endorse her strongly enough. Go to officeangels.us for more information, but better yet, just pick up the phone and give Essie a call, 770-442-9246, and tell her we sent you. And folks, this show can be heard on all the major podcast platforms. I won't name them all because we're on all of them. So just go to and search for North Fulton Business Radio wherever you are, whether that's Apple or Deezer or Cheezer or whatever new one they've got, we're on it. And search for us and find us there. And we would love it if you would rate and review our show because it helps folks find the show and that may need the services of the Exit Planning Exchange or other guests that we've had over this past 4 years we've been doing this. We're also on social media. We'd love if you connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, North Fulton BRX. So for my guests, David Shavzin and Bob Tankesley with the Exit Planning Exchange, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.